I'm Dr. Christy, and I'm here today to talk to you about milestones for your child. Milestones, we're going to talk about the myths, and we're also going to talk about the truths, because there are some of both. And I think that milestones is a topic that we all have thought many times about as a mom. And I don't care whether it's your first child or your 10th child. They're always brought up. Every doctor's appointment you go to, you're reminded about milestones. Every time you enter a classroom, you're reminded about milestones. Even when you go to play groups, you're reminded about milestones, because you're going to constantly compare your child against all other children of every age. And a lot of the questions that I've fielded, and a lot of the questions that I continue to get over the course of my career have been revolved around this topic. So we're going to talk a little bit about it today. So milestones are basically a guideline that is set down by the American Pediatric Association to measure the progress of a child from birth to school. And then it's kind of assumed that once they enter the school system, that the milestones are now going to be watched and recorded and taken over by the teachers. Okay, so until then, really the only way to measure development or to measure growth patterns is going to be through you and through your pediatrician. So number one, it's important to be honest when you do have these evaluations with your pediatrician. It's important to be honest. I know a lot of times I was maybe embarrassed that my children weren't meeting a certain milestone, or I was concerned, or but there's nothing that can be gained from not being honest with them about them. If anything, if they are that delayed, they can give you help and they can give you resources that are going to get them caught up. But in most of the cases, they're just a diagram. So it's a guideline. You're going to have children that are going to be on both ends of the spectrum. So I'll give you an example with my 5. I have 5 kids, and for probably every single milestone, they were all vastly different on the scale for each one. So I had my third child, who was my first son. He walked at 7 months old. And my second child, my daughter, didn't walk until she was 15 months old. So they basically started walking at the same time. And today, obviously you can't tell a difference between the two of them. However, at that time, I can tell you that I was a pretty stressed out parent about my 15-month-old who still wasn't walking. I get this question fielded a lot when it comes to potty training, because parents will get very concerned because their child is 2 or 2.5 and they haven't been potty trained yet. And my answer to them is usually something along the lines of, well, I still haven't yet seen a college student who is still walking around in diapers. So they're all going to figure it out eventually. It's just that a lot of times we want them on our agenda, not necessarily the agenda that they're on, and we have to keep that in mind, that ultimately, all children are going to progress in different areas at a different pace. So my daughter, who walked very slow, she was a very critical thinker. I'll tell you a story about her. When I went, she did everything slow, everything motor slow. She crawled, she talked late, she walked late. She had a very difficult time meeting motor skilled guidelines. And when I went she was in daycare at the time, and I went to her first daycare visit. And the teacher, I was really nervous. I was very concerned going in. I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to tell me that she needs speech therapy and physical therapy and all of these different therapies, because she clearly was behind according to all the other students in her class. And the teacher sat me down and she said, Christy, she's just a brilliant thinker. She can put puzzles together that most 7-year-olds can't do, and she's very intelligent. And I had to stop her, because I said, are we talking about the same kid? Like, I couldn't believe that she wasn't focused on the things that I was worried she was going to be focused on. And so that's the truth, is that even though my daughter was delayed in some aspects, she was very advanced in others. So her brain was working in a way where it was focusing on the development of these particular aspects and maybe not, of course, not as concerned with the physical ones. And she got caught up. Within a year, she was walking and talking, and I had forgotten that I was even worried about those milestones to begin with. So my point is that they are laid down by the Pediatric Association for us to kind of be aware of, and they're put there so that if we see a vast discrepancy, that they can use that as a diagnostic tool to see if there's something wrong physically or mentally. But in most cases, they're not. In most cases, it's just an aspect of their learning one particular area of their life at a faster rate than another. So if I can tell everyone out there, everyone is listening about milestones, my biggest advice is to just relax about them, to be aware of them, to be honest about them when they're brought up in conversation, but to not put the amount of stress behind them that we tend to do as parents. And that's something that's very difficult to do, and it's very difficult to compare. One of the hardest issues that I had to face as a parent was my last pregnancy. Was I had twins. I had the two boys, and the one, if you know anything about the story that I've told in other sessions, is that my one was very delayed. He had a heart condition, and so he was very delayed. So I was reminded every day of this developmental discrepancy between him and his brother, because his brother was doing things that he just wasn't even close to being able to do, and it was very difficult for me to have to see that. But what it did too is it gave me kind of a guiding of like a path as far as what areas I could concentrate on to help him, to help build up these particular things. So I knew, okay, I have to work on some of the physical aspects. I have to work on some of the motor skills. I have to work on some of the speech. And so it gave me these areas to focus on. And so it allowed me to be aware of that so that I could help him better. Instead of panicking about milestones, we should be open to using them as a tool that we can use to help our child develop in the areas that they are slower in. So I think that hopefully this has helped a little bit as far as dispelling some of the myths of milestones. If you have any specific questions regarding your child, please email us at Bumble Brainbox and let us know. A lot of what we do is to help prepare children so that they are set to meet the milestones that are put in place. So if we can intervene at an earlier age, the sooner that we can kind of put them on track, they're not always going to be exhibiting the behavior that we necessarily want to see, but we know that developmentally the neurons are being formed and are being connected in the brain so that when the child is ready to express it, then it can be expressed. So that's the most important thing, and surely that can be seen by my daughter. She just wasn't ready at the time to express it, but when she did get to that point, it was there. It was there as a foundation. It was there as a building block to become a good and a solid foundation for her life.
And I can give the preschool perspective on that. So, hi, this is Sonia Jamil. So me and Dr. Christie have been working on Bumble Brainbox together for a while now. And I'm really exposed to a lot of milestones myself because I have preschool. So you can see the 1-year-old classroom, you can see the 2-year-old classroom, you can see the 3-year-old classroom, and you can see kind of the differences in between all of the kids. I think it is important to kind of see the differences of where your child is at, where your child is not at, not for an anxiety purpose. You shouldn't have anxiety the way Christy said. Just be relaxed, because if you're stressed, your child's going to feed off of that. But you are able to practice those areas. So let's say your child, for example, is a little bit behind in language, or your child is a little bit behind in physical development. Then that simply means practice those areas more. Maybe you want to get on the ground and play games or walk with your child more or promote more tummy time, or you want to be singing to your child more, or you want to be talking to them more, or you want to be, doing more of what they need help with. So that's the biggest takeaway I would say about Milestones. And one thing that we're going to be doing on our blog, on our Facebook page, as well as our Instagram page and our Twitter page, is we're going to be talking about milestones more, because we realized a lot of parents have questions on this. So what we'll be doing is posting, at 3 months it's recommended your child's here, 5 months it's recommended your child's here, or 1 year it's recommended here. But again, remember, it's just recommendations. And if you have specific questions, always remember, every subscriber of the Bumble Brain Box gets unlimited email access to both Dr. Christy and myself. I've got the benefit of being able to say, okay, your child is here, and I know that my entire preschool class is at this stage, and I can kind of give you context. And Christy, with her degrees, can give you a background on several different of those questions as well. So if there's anything at all, do email us. Subscribers do get unlimited email access to us as well. And we will see you next Friday at 1 o'clock for another Bumble Brain blog topic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.